I'm Chanchy. I am grounding myself right now as we speak. I'm a holistic life coach. I'm also a stage performer, musical theater actress kind of person. So we try to, by these tables, bring together a little bit of both, but we'll see what happens. I tend to just entertain myself mostly, but that's not an official title. So anyway, okay, so before we actually start, I guess also a little bit of change of tone, or we're going to build off of whatever just spontaneously happened. Just invite everybody to resettle back into the room, consciously swallow your food if you have something in your mouth, feel yourself grounding into the chair beneath you, feel yourself being supported, your feet on the ground. Maybe we could all just take, for me and for all of us, take a few deep breaths together. Like 2 more like that. And we have arrived. Thank you, Spotlight. Okay. I also apologize, I'm a little bit sick, so hopefully we won't have too many sniffles and stuff like that along the way. But, all right, y'all strap in. Here we go. I'm sorry I'm not going to get to know everybody's names, but I really encourage you, please interact with me. It's so much more interesting to hear you talk than to hear me talk. So, okay. On the flyer, it said, there were 3 words on the flyer of what we're going to be finding in this Rosh Chodesh Kislev thing. I actually in my brain switched the order around. So it was joy, connection, and purpose. And I honestly feel like each and every one of these words can be a masterclass for a year on its own. But we're going to do the wise thing tonight and smush them all together in one. So I'm just wondering, you all showed up tonight, whether you had a free night or there was something about something that intrigued you. And I'm curious if there's any one particular word or all 3 together that is something you'd like to hear about, something that's outstanding to you, resonating with you right now. I mean, I have 5 pages, but I would really love to hear what you're hoping to leave with tonight that has to do with one or all 3 of these words. If anybody's brave to kick us off.
Can you share them again?
Yes. Joy, connection, and fulfillment. Purpose.
Connection.
Connection. Okay. Can you tell me more about that?
I feel like community is really important, and sometimes
Community.
it's hard to be involved and to get to know people. It can be scary. So, like a risk.
Okay.
To come into a space like this. And hopefully
Okay.
worthwhile.
Okay, amazing. We are recording this, by the way, so I'm just going to repeat whatever you say, because last time you couldn't hear anybody that wasn't sitting right here. So she said community. It's really scary to come into a new place and connect with people. It's risky. So connection in that way. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? You want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's just dive in. So obviously, in addition to these 3 words, it is also Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which is, we're in the winter months. We're going into the deeper winter months. There's more less daylight, more darkness. It's colder. We want to stay inside more. We're seeing the sun less. It's December. It's Erev 2025. It's like there's things coming to conclusion, which could feel really great, could feel really sad. I don't know. It depends on you and your year. But then on the Jewish perspective, we have in this month of Kislev, during the darkest months of the year, we actually have a couple of really bright things coming. We have Yotes Kislev, the Rosh Chodesh of Hasidus. We have Hanukkah, which we all love Hanukkah, I think. Who doesn't love a little light for 8 days? So there's actually that beautiful contrast even just in the month that we're going into. So honestly, each one of us starting from our own place, wherever we're at. And this is actually probably the first year that I can say for myself in my experience that either I'm more tuned into it or I've gotten more out of my own way, that I can really feel it, that each month that comes in the Jewish calendar, we're all of 3-4 months in, but each one has really had a very clear energetic feeling to me, which I don't think I've ever had that experience before. And so I'm really appreciating very deeply how Judaism kind of helps us each month, helps us tune in to what's happening naturally, energetically, spiritually, planetarily, however you relate to it, all of it at the same time. So again, it's solstice wise, yes, there's less sunlight, but Hebrew celebration wise, we have a lot of light that's coming in right now. So, and how might we be able to tie in these few words of joy, connection, and purpose, and whatever we can glean from Kislev together? Well, if you're curious, you have come to the right place because we're about to dive in. So, I actually wanted to start with joy. And I thought that the flyer started with joy, but it didn't, so that's my bad. But I actually had a debate about this today with my brother, that we were talking about joy, and is it a state of being, or is it a feeling, like a momentary thing that passes through? And the first thing that came to mind was The Magical Art of Tidying Up, or whatever the title of her book was, with Mary Kondo, if anybody's heard of her. And it's like, well, does it spark joy? Exactly. So in that context, it sounds much more like it's a fleeting feeling. Like, does it spark joy? That sounds like a little zing of something. I'm also curious if anybody's ever tried, whether or not in the context of tidying up your house magically, but have you ever tried, if you think of the concept of spark joy, what does that feel like to you? Like, can you locate that in your body? What are the senses of it?
I think it's like in my tummy in a way. Like
In your tummy?
Yesterday I just picked up a bunch. I've like been living here, then I moved, and then I just came back.
Welcome back.
And I picked up a bunch of stuff that I like shoved away in my brother's house a year ago. I'm like opening it back up, and one bag got moldy. And I was looking at the stuff, and like most things, I was like kind of relieved. Like, okay, now I have a real reason to like throw this stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I threw that stuff away. And then I opened my next suitcase, and like I could feel in my body, like in like my tummy, I guess, like if something was like, oh yay, I'm so excited, I forgot about this, I'm so excited to have this again, or like, oh, now I'm gonna have to like stare at this and like pretend that I still want it, you know, and like, yeah.
Okay, so
that's my...
can you describe it a little bit more? Feeling in your tummy when it was something yay and it was something like,
well, it wasn't something like,
which felt like a tightness, a constriction. Okay. And then when it didn't feel like that, did it feel neutral? It felt open? If you can, we're trying to put words to a feeling, you know? It's
yeah.
a
It felt
buzzing.
It felt so exciting.
Exciting.
I'm trying to think. I know more like what the...
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe warm?
Yeah, it did feel warm. I was thinking
Good
it felt
word, warm.
because
Okay.
the things that I was excited about was my warm clothes.
Literal and
Yeah,
and energetic.
Like I felt cozy seeing the stuff.
Okay, great. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Anybody else have something like that? Something similar? Something completely different?
I feel very light.
Light.
Like feather-like.
Feather-like.
Yeah.
Like weightless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I lost the 5 pounds I wanted. That was like the goal, you know? Like
Okay.
6 months, whatever, you know? And
Okay.
I'm feeling like, and it just feels like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel less like constricted and heavy and like pulled.
Less constricted, heavy, pulled. Okay.
Less like
Beautiful.
self.
Less self.
Like when I think of a spark of joy, I think of like there isn't me as much. It's just like it's like an electricity of some sort that's otherness, not inside. Like
An electricity of some sort that's otherness.
Like out of your own mind and heart.
Okay,
It's
but
just
you're
very,
feeling it.
like, yeah, it's a feeling of just like, I think I resonate with the lightness. Like it's just not in you. It's just like there. I don't know.
No,
But
Is it
is a
outside
feeling.
of you, or you're feeling it inside of you, but it doesn't necessarily
It's like mirroring outside.
mirroring outside of you? Okay, and you're like tapping into it?
You're like, it's like a magnet inside of you and outside of you.
Oh, okay. Mirroring inside and out of you, so it's inside of you. Hey! So sorry, everybody turned. So it's inside of you and you're mirroring it, but it's inside of you and reflecting something other than you.
Yeah. Like
Kind
the
of.
feeling is an excitement. Like I think the feeling, the word to the feeling I would put is excitement. Like
Okay.
it is like a
Feels like
spark
excitement.
of joy. Using that word.
Yeah.
But what is going on under that I think is that mirroring and not self otherness.
Okay. Okay.
I know that's very abstract, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like it feels
That's
abstract a
really
little bit.
good.
So,
abstract.
it's okay. Huh?
Yeah.
I said you like abstract.
Yeah. Okay,
I like
cool.
abstract.
Anyone else? Something same, different?
I think joy for me is a lot of hope.
Joy is a lot of hope.
Everything is gonna be better. Like I found the answer. It's like a moment of insight. Like wow, I have the answer for my whole life. Everything's gonna be amazing.
Okay.
So that's,
Like you have the answer. It's a
like
hope.
it's a moment of insight. Like for me, it feels like I've just discovered something. Like I'm not blind anymore. I can see.
Okay.
See.
Insight, you can see. Aha.
Yeah.
Like a. It sounds like a eureka, a euphoric eureka kind of thing.
Yeah.
I found it. I've got a whole new pair of glasses, and we're gonna be amazing. Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, one of the things that I think is so interesting about this is that even just such a common word like joy, we all have such different experiences of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a real sensation in our body, in a specific location, like in your tummy, or kind of an overall experience that you feel light, or like a light bulb went off. It's kind of located in different places, and feels different. And I'm sure for everybody, maybe you consistently feel it a certain way, or maybe it's something a little bit different every time. But anyway, that was a sidetrack. So, okay. So it also sounds like from everybody that shared, it sounds like something that's more fleeting, not necessarily a constant state, but something that you can feel, something you can tap into, something that you're experiencing in some way. Okay, so I lost the debate today. I thought that joy, I always thought of joy as a more real, more of a state of being that you can leave and come back to, but as a container, it can hold you. And I turned to very trusty Merriam-Webster, and he, I don't even know if I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but the definition for joy in the dictionary is A, the emotion, strike one, the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires, delight. 1B, because there's a few definitions, the expression or exhibition of such emotion, gaiety, a state of happiness or felicity, bliss, a source of cause or delight, to experience great pleasure or delight, rejoice. Right? So it sounds like something that's a feeling that comes, we experience it sometimes, can be for any sort of reason, but kind of comes and goes, which then I thought of course, Inside Out, and I was like, oh, of course, joy. She's not always at the control center, but it's something we may constantly have access to, but right, not always on the handles. So then I was thinking about happiness. I was like, okay, well, if that's joy, then what's happiness? Dictionary. So according to the dictionary, and this is where I guess I got personally my wires crossed, the dictionary says a state of well-being and contentment, joy, okay, thank you, a pleasurable or satisfying experience, felicity, aptness, and then I actually thought really interestingly, an obsolete definition is good fortune or prosperity. I just thought that was interesting to bring in. We don't have that much to go off of it, but fun fact for the day. Who needs Snapple? Not us. So it sounds like happiness is much more a state of well-being, and it includes joy, right? It's overall, it's a state in which you can live in, right? You can live in, it's somewhere that you can, a little bit more somewhere that you can set up your house, and not just somewhere where maybe you pitch a tent for a night or a moment. But the more that I thought, as I was thinking of these two, and I think it's just in general, happiness to me, I don't know about you guys, but happiness, ladies, happiness to me feels like it's still kind of pedestaled, whether it's joy, whether it's happiness, it's like this unattainable thing that even if it could be a state of being, it could feel so out of reach or so far away. So kind of like this thing, if I'm not happy, then I won't be wanted, or I'm not okay, or nobody will enjoy my company, or what am I even doing here? And let me just curl up in a ball and hide in the corner until I can feel happy again. And what is my life? No, just me? Okay.
No, you're not alone. Don't worry.
And it actually made, also I thought of my friend's grandmother. She's since passed, but she was in her 90s. She lived to over 100. And I remember somebody once asking her, Oma, how do I get over a breakup? And she said, you put your troubles away and you go out and you smile at the men. And it was like, okay, see, no one wants to see you unhappy. Thanks, Oma. And first of all, great advice, but also, and.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right. Each for its place. So I actually heard a quote today. I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast host quoted someone, so I can't give the original source. Happiness is reality minus expectations. Right? It sounds like a state of being. And I like the quote, but to me, that's not happiness. To me, happiness is not reality without expectations. To me, what that made me think of is gratitude. Like, gratitude is being in touch with and usually feeling good about what is, but there's nothing else attached to it. So then I had to look up gratitude. And gratitude is the state of being grateful, thankfulness. So then I looked up grateful or gratefulness, and that's appreciative of benefits received, expressing gratitude, affording pleasure or contentment, something pleasing. And I think that gratitude, in my experience, I don't think that I think by nature I do have a very positive side to me, or there's a part of me where I'm very playful, I love to laugh, but I also have a deep intensity, and it can get dark sometimes. So to me, gratitude is something that bridges and can hold both. That even whether I'm here or whether I'm here, there's still something that I can tune into physically right here, right now, even if it's just I'm breathing, or I have a home to crawl into the corner to and hide from the world, or I have a friend that I can call that I'm feeling it, like, come sit with me in this insanity or whatever it is. And then, of course, obviously for the good stuff of perhaps if you have family or your friends you're grateful for and that you can celebrate with, a job, a car, your health, right? We could go to all of the things that everybody always talks about. So going through the definitions of all of these words, and I was reminded of a few quotes from this book that I pulled out of my shelf. And this guy, Dave Brooks, who's an author, says that most people shoot for happiness, but feel formed through suffering. So again, to me, it sounds like this thing that it's like we all want to be happy, and we all want to be happy all the time because it also feels better to be happy, but it's not necessarily the thing that grows, crafts, creates us. I don't love the word suffering. I would probably exchange that for pain. I didn't look up each word. But suffering, I feel like sometimes is when we're kind of stuck somewhere, it's not necessarily necessary that sometimes we get in our own way and spin in what is, as opposed to pain seems to me to be a part of life and the way that God created the world. That pain is just a part of it. And again, we may shoot, raise a hands. Anybody here shoot for pain or suffering? Nope. Right, not usually. It's like our whole human body's like, no, not that. So as I continued on my little research into these words, reminded me of something that actually, when I read this, it completely changed my perspective of everything. There's this Australian social researcher and author, his name is Hugh McKay, and he said, the pursuit of happiness seems to me a really dangerous idea and has led to a contemporary disease in Western society, which is a fear of sadness. I'd like for just 1 year to have a moratorium on the word happiness. Maybe he meant joy, maybe happiness, I don't know. But to have a moratorium on the word happiness and to replace it with the word wholeness. Ask yourself, is this contributing to my wholeness? And if you're having a bad day, it is. I just got chills, and I've read this before. So, yeah, I'll just repeat the last part. I'd like for just a year to have a moratorium on the word happiness and to replace it with the word wholeness. Ask yourself, is this contributing to my wholeness? And if you're having a bad day, it is. So it's so interesting how language, first of all, the dictionary definition means something, but then there's also so much cultural context, and you're saying community, right? Even in each community, I'm sure if you go to Eastern Europe or somewhere in South America or right, obviously in the United States or anywhere, these words may have different connotations to them. And okay, I'm going to digress. I heard this on the same podcast I was listening to today. I heard this crazy story of the Dalai Lama when he came to America for the first time. And we're going to talk about the Dalai Lama at our Farbrengan. And,
We'll elevate it.
and somebody in the audience, I'm going to do my best to repeat the story. Somebody in the audience asked him what the Buddhist perspective is on self-hatred. And he was using a translator because it was his first time to America, didn't really speak English. And apparently it took him over 15 minutes to understand what the question was, because where he came from or whatever his traditions were, such a concept did not exist. Which is so wild that it's something that you say self-hatred, everyone here is like, yeah. I know what that means. Been there, done that, check. check. So just a wild thing to realize that, number one, it took him so long to even understand what the question was, thought he misunderstood, didn't even know what it meant. Number two, until he realized that everyone in the room resonated with the question. It's just a crazy thing. And then, whatever, just the way the rest of this story goes. So these words, I mean, clearly I like language, but it's just interesting sometimes to pull apart the pieces of when we say these words, do we even know what we're talking about? And then do the people around us resonate the same way? And maybe is there a word that contributes more to that more holds the realness of our reality as being human beings in this world, that may be more accessible, more useful, more compassionate, more whole, more full, something that can really hold us. I did look up the definition of whole, wholeness, which I got 3 definitions. There's whole as an adjective, as a noun, and as an adverb. I'm just going to blow through them really quickly because it's interesting. Whole is, as an adjective, is free of wound or injury, unhurt, recovered from a wound or injury, restored, being healed, free of defect or impairment, intact, physically sound and healthy, free of disease or deformity, mentally or emotionally sound, having all its proper components, complete, unmodified, unbroken, uncut. As a noun, it's a complete amount or a sum, something constituting a complex unity, a coherent system or organization of parts fitting or working together as one. And then whole as an adverb, wholly, entirely, as a complete entity. And I'm like, yes, please, yes, please, yes, yes, yes. And then how do I tell everyone about this? Well, we're gonna start here. Thank you for being here. So to me, this leaves room for all of this, right? This little journey of either we can just like, okay, Merriam-Webster, can we add a definition to the word joy and happiness, please? Thank you. Or even for ourselves in the context of our lives, maybe we can, because to me, this leaves room for all of life and all of our humanity through all of the seasons, through all of ourselves, that whether it's even in the moment when we're feeling a spark of in our tummy or a spark of in our tummy, that's part of your wholeness. Or feeling light or feeling heavy, both a part of your wholeness. Or feeling like having the aha, of course, but what about when you're fighting to find the aha, part of your wholeness. And then also feeling a frequency of something that feels like excitement that is you but isn't you because it's outside of you and it's reflecting you. It's all a part of you, and when you can tap into it and when you can't tap into it, right? Whatever your antenna is for that. And I think that this allows us to experience it all, the highs, the lows, the happiness, the sadness, and while also maybe forging a more desirable container for us. Because of course, I wish happiness and joy to you all at all times. Amen. And maybe it can be a container that can be stretched that to be a little bit more wholesome, to hold more. Like, can we be like, again, maybe with more gratitude? That gratitude still feels good, and sometimes we can think gratitude, and the more that we can bring it into our bodies and really feel it, can help us even in a tough moment, or even when we're in our shadow and not in our light, that we can say, hey, this is still contributing to my wholeness. And then from that place, can I even be grateful for it, which then maybe will feel like one of the things that feels a little bit lighter or more like happiness and joy. Maybe not, but I think it's something that maybe we can hone. And of course, it's a process and a process of discovery, like so many things, and it's energy, so it's always in motion, right? So, which is just to transition to the next part. But so far, how does that feel to everybody? Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I resonate with that.
Great. Amazing. That's part one. Then, and obviously, again, this is we are sitting here in honor of going into the month of Kislev, but I think at any point we can have a new start, a fresh something. And if there's nothing else from tonight, I hope that you can leave with something from even that first part that we just spoke about, of maybe a little more wholeness, a little more room for your wholeness and your whole humanity. Okay, let's move over to the word connection.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Is what you're saying about wholeness that joy is part of
Oh my God, that's so hot. Sorry.
Do you want cold water?
No, I'm okay. Sorry.
Yeah, like that basically within the darkness, with joy mixed with other things is a whole. It is part of you being whole. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, what I'm joy mixed with other things, yeah.
Meaning
That
like,
joy.
in and of itself, just joy is not. It's not a complete person. It's not possible.
Right.
So part of being
Unless
whole,
maybe you're a Rebbe, right?
Right.
But
so part
if
of
we weren't born that way, then we're not. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So part of being whole is a bit of just basically life and everything it offers, and then you can dance between joy and through gratefulness and some other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
It seems
dance
like-
through joy and other things.
It seems like that also like leads to more acceptance to view it in that way.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, I don't feel happy, I don't feel joy. Now what?
Darn.
Right, life's over, or it sucks, or I can't live life until I feel that way. Or, I mean, again, also in connection to the words that we're then going to go into of what is this all about if I can't feel good, or if I'm not feeling good. And I think, again, I wish upon everybody that you feel so much delight and joy and happiness all the time. And I think the more we understand that it is something that comes and goes, the more we can, first of all, allow it to come and go. And then the more we can also open up our definition of, yes, that's me, and there's also other parts of me. And when I'm experiencing these other things, it's still valuable, it still matters, and it's still maybe good, godly, human, whatever, in some way, because it's a part of my wholeness. I'm more than just my joy, or I'm more than just being happy all the time.
So you came back around to it's a state of mind and a feeling.
Right. Well, because according to the definitions, I think it's both, which is also a part of, to me, having gratitude and wholeness to me is a much bigger container that can hold all of it. Happiness holds joy, but grateful holds happiness, joy, sadness. The wholeness holds that. So I think it's both, and I think because it is also a state of mind, I think that can be stretched. So I think to me, being grateful and allowing for wholeness is one of the things that can stretch that container, because maybe we can expand our definition of it and our experience of it. And maybe even there's a big concept of duality. Can I be happy and sad at the same time? It's a huge part of the human experience, but have we forged that in ourselves? Do we give ourselves permission to do that, to hold two feelings at once, or two states of mind? I hear two voices in my head. One's like, yay, one's like, boo. And then which one is it? I don't know. Right now it seems like I'm both. I'm totally jumping ahead, by the way. But spoiler alert. Yeah.
I feel like I'm have this awareness of that I could hold all of me, and I could have these two opposite things, and I'm okay when I feel sad because it's not the end of the world, and I can hold my wholeness. But
Great.
then I feel like sometimes it holds me back from making healthy decisions mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, to do the things that are hard but that I know truly make me feel whole and happy.
Okay.
Because I kind of use this I can hold myself no matter how I feel as an excuse not to do the work to feel how I really want to feel. So
Okay.
I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm just going to repeat for this, that she said she has a really great ability to hold both the multiple parts of herself, but then sometimes it holds you back from actually doing the thing you need to do that brings you to a state of more real wholeness. I love that. Okay, so first of all, amazing. I'm so glad that you can hold both. And I think that we're different. So some of us, I've had to learn how to hold both. And then
Me too.
it's a constant discovery. Cool. And and maybe because you already know how to hold both, I feel like sometimes there's this pendulum effect that we're all the way to one side, that when we're feeling one thing, it completely takes over and is the only thing ever and there's no end. And sometimes we have to go to the opposite extreme of, it seems to be the way human beings and the world works. Like, if we just look at the world right now, we can see how there are things that have been at one extreme and they are swinging totally to the other side. And it's like us all seeking balance, harmony, equilibrium, wholeness, right, on a much bigger way, that sometimes we have to know the edges completely to be able to come somewhere in the middle. So maybe your edge was all one thing, right? Correct me if I'm assuming. And then maybe you came all the way to the other side of the duality. It's like, hold both. I'm okay, I can hold both. And it's like, great, but you're a human being. You're not supposed to stay anywhere for too long. So whatever, it sounds like your next step, or it's like, you get to the next level and you're like, there's a level 3? I didn't even know that, but I couldn't know there was a level 3 until I got to level 2, because I can only see the ceiling from the floor. And only once I get to the next one do I know that there's a third floor. So it sounds like for you, in your evolution, in your growth, in your becoming of being even more holy and human, is to now find that place in the middle where, or maybe a little bit more balance, or maybe it's swinging back the other way, but in a more evolved, conscious, aware state of, okay, now how do I do the thing that I know? Now that I know that I can hold both, I don't have to flex that muscle anymore. I've got it. Bring it with you, of course. And it sounds like you're up to the next part, which is great. And for you, maybe some people start there with like, I always know what to do, but then I don't know how to feel my feelings. Well, okay, hold on. That's a whole different pendulum. What is it called? The thing that holds the pendulum? I don't know.
And sometimes I'm back on level
Metronome.
1 beast at not being able to hold both for sure.
Okay.
But
So still so human,
yeah.
right? Which also in that, back to the context of section 1, of like, that's still a part of your wholeness. It's like, okay, that's a skill that I've acquired, and sometimes I can see so clearly, or I know if I really listen, and sometimes I'm back to, quote unquote, back. I think we spiral upward, that there's never really a falling back. It's just familiar because you're on the same point of the loop, but
Or-
you're up, huh?
Yeah, no. Or
Yeah.
it's like you're going up, but it goes like that.
Yes.
Something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
True. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes there's a little bit of a dip, but your still overall trajectory is the way up.
Can I
Yeah,
just
and
share something on that?
sure.
So,
Hi.
like, sometimes when you're like, you feel like you're holding both reins, so you like you kind of were saying, like you feel like it's almost like it's holding you back from like taking that next like growth step. Sometimes it's too much, too daunting to take like a bigger step. So for me, what works for me sometimes is to do like the tiniest thing that like represents that direction that I want to head in, that it's maybe not where I want to be, but it's in that direction. And so that way for me, it kind of gives space to like both those things, but like I'm still heading in that direction, and it's not too much, because there's a reason why I'm not there yet. Like there's something still holding me back. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Sometimes the tiniest step is still forward.
Sorry, can we have a very practical example of what we're talking about? Because I feel like this is a very theoretical conversation.
Sure. A very practical conversation, a very practical example. Okay, I will give you an amazing example. This happened yesterday. I was really not feeling well. I was really not feeling well. I had gone to bed too late. I hadn't been feeling well the day before. Went to bed too late because I thought I was feeling better. Was miserable and ups and downs, my body the whole day. And I kept like vacillating between this thing between like, I'm so tired and I don't feel good and I don't want to or whatever. And the other thing of, and the other side of, I'm really okay and it's fine, and what can I do to take care of myself, and what do I actually need, and both parts of that being so present at the same time. Like, I have a video of me sitting on my couch. I had made myself a bowl of food. I wasn't hungry, but I didn't feel hungry, but I was sure my body needed food. I sat down on the couch, and I took the video for myself just to be able to laugh at myself. I took this video of my bowl of food, and I was like, look how pretty this bowl of food is. And like, I'm taking such good care of myself. Flip the camera, I'm crying. I'm like, I don't feel good. I don't want it. It's not what I need. And then there was this other voice that knew to take the video, that it's like, oh, you're so cute, you little human. Like, that's so cute. Look at you doing both things at the same time. So it's not like one of those things of like a big life moment or like it's not a huge external thing. It's like I was totally fine, and I was totally, and also kind of not okay at the same time. I really wasn't feeling well. Probably had fever. Wouldn't just put myself back into my bed. I don't know why, because I had work to do and whatever, and like was doing my best to take care of myself and hating it. I'm like miserable, and just wanted to turn into a puppy that could sleep at somebody's fireplace, but that I don't have. So. It's a little bit of a superficial example, but it was both. There was no part of me that was like, hi. There was no part of me that was like, oh, I'm all this, and there's no part of me that was like, oh, I'm all this, and I shouldn't feel sick because I should be grateful, and or also that I'm feeling too sick to be aware of other things that are happening. So both at the same time. And then, kind of like you were saying, I did the one step that I could take. I made myself a bowl of food. I did feel better after I ate it. We're so human. It's so cute. It's so cute. Was that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, I mean, at this point in my life, after however many years of working on this kind of stuff, I could see that all of this is a part of me. All of this is a part of me. All of this is a part of life. And like wholeness. It's all. It's all. There's not one or the other that's more me in this moment. I'm experiencing both of them in real time. Okay. Okay, we're smiling. We're ready to move on. Cool. Okay, we were just talking about joy, which happiness, grateful, wholeness, and now we're on to the next thing. You're all caught up. Okay, so connection. Let's talk about this word. I would love to hear from anybody here. I'm going to give you 2 questions, and I guess pick which one if anybody wants to share anything. Is there anywhere in your life where you feel that you do have a strong sense of connection? Or is there anywhere in your life where you feel that you would really like to have a strong sense of connection? And I'm actually going to throw another preface to this. I think the word connection is really large, and again, we can spend a year talking about all of the things that where and how connection comes in, and even just exactly as you said just before, it could be connection to your body, it could be connection to your mind, your heart, your soul, your spirit. It could be to so many things, and each of those, again, we can go into for ages, right? Like the last workshop was all about connecting with your body. So. Sorry, not last workshop here, last workshop there, whatever. So in any area, really, it's a really wide concept. In any area of your life, somewhere that you feel really strong in it or somewhere you'd like to feel really strong in it. Pass the mic and talking stick.
Do you want me to go?
Sure.
Okay. So I'll go with the not one because
Okay.
I'm like battling with this every day. I'm not connected to like my physical health, exercising, eating well. Is that the direction you're looking for?
Sure.
Okay, so sleeping well, that I'm always like, could have done better.
Okay.
Connected to is mommy. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to share something? You could go in any direction that feels comfortable or uncomfortable.
Guys, don't let me be the only one.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Is there anywhere in your life that you feel like you have a strong sense of connection? And that could be, again, on every physical to spiritual plane. Or anywhere that you don't have a strong connection that you'd like to.
I don't know if this is very it's not specific, but I feel like I have a very strong connection to what I need. But
Okay.
I'm not always able to give that to myself.
Cool.
I don't know if
One
that's
answer for both questions.
Yeah.
You have a strong connection to what you need, but you're not always able to actually give it to yourself.
Saying, yeah.
Cool.
If
Okay.
that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone have anything to say on this? So we had over here physical health, what you need. I imagine that's in more than one way. Mental, emotional health, maybe. Anybody have anything to say about this in relation to spiritual? This became health, but spiritual connection, God.
I feel like
Anything
it could,
else?
like you said, it could go in so many directions.
Right.
But just one thing that just came to me now. First of all, the answer to both questions is yes.
Great.
Yes, and 1,000 things. But just one thing I'll share is I think I feel very connected to myself when I'm doing something that I love, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. Like any of my hobbies or things that I really love doing, when I'm like in my element, then I feel very connected to myself.
Cool.
That's a good one.
Okay, so you're actually, unless somebody else has something to say.
Say that.
Cool.
I was gonna say connected to myself, but then I was thinking of how I'm seeing it in like my connections with others, because I'm like it reflects back to me like, oh, I'm like friends with people who like are so good for like the me that I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a neat way to tie it up. I guess it's part of like the overarching thing is like connection with myself. That's like the initial thing I thought of, but it like it leads to and like opens the door to my connections with others.
Cool.
I feel like someone needs
Love
to
that.
say God.
I was gonna say that. for the
On
one
which
that I'm not.
side of it? Huh?
No, I was gonna say like I don't feel as connected as I would like to be with God. Like I'm working on it. Like
Okay.
having a running conversation with him throughout the day is what I'm working on. But like that, I would put that in that regard. But on the flip side, I would actually put the Rebbe on the side of like someone who I'm really connected to.
Cool.
So within spirituality, there's some and some.
Beautiful. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wholeness, right?
On the topic of God, I would think like I connect this is so bad, but I connect my value on like what I believe I could give to God. I'm like, he'll only like I'm only valuable if I'm doing all the things he wants me to do. And that's what I'm very connected with. I guess it's not always a good thing, but that's what like I connect my sense of worthiness to.
Connect your sense of worthiness with God.
So honest.
Yeah, thanks for being honest.
It's a good thing because it's the driving force of my life, but it's also a bad thing because it's like when that's not there, whatever. It has its faults.
Yeah,
I'm very
Right.
I
connected to
hear
it.
that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, back to me. Okay, so yeah, I guess there's obviously different aspects of our lives that we can be connected with, our different physical to spiritual realms, and different people or things or places or whatever it is. And I guess my question, the question that I wanted to hear how this landed for everybody is who is doing the connecting, right? Even feeling connected to yourself in some way, who is the one that is doing that connecting? And like, who are you? When you say me, I feel connected to who is that? And I actually think that this is the deepest root of everything, is when we can, in my human experience, is like, who is the I? Who is the I? Who is the me? Who is the self? And I know that we could get to we'll get to the answer. The answer is easy, but well, sometimes. But the exploration of getting there, this is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot and exploring over the last few months, probably in the most gentle and curious way I ever had. I think that there's a lot of times that I may have found myself in some sort of breakdown of like, just who am I? Who am I? And now it's kind of been a very different tone of but yeah, who am I? I don't know. Who am I? Let's find out. Okay. And I've been really floating, walking, and exploring with it in a whole new way. And I had a conversation with Moshe Dov Chanan. I don't know if anybody here knows him.
I know who he is.
Amazing person, yeah. And I told him about this exploration that I was going through, and he asked me, he was like, well, that depends. Who's asking the question? We just went like, so, so there's, okay, so who am I? Who is the one that is doing the connecting? And then it's like, well, okay, well, who's asking? And of course, Hasidically, we know we have our Nefesh HaBahamis and our Nefesh HaLokis. And sometimes in these conversations of who am I connecting to? What am I connecting to? What do I feel I have to connect to in order to feel connected? Whatever all of those things are, even just asking ourselves, okay, who's asking the question? Or even the question of who am I? Depending on who's asking will be the answer. So if it's our Nefesh HaBahamis, then there's probably more practical, physical, tangible things that we'll be looking for in our answer. Maybe sometimes it caters to our ego, but I do think that sometimes the ego gets a bad rap. And as humans, we need the ego. So, but there's a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego. So, like, our maybe immature ego or our more mature ego that's like, oh, that's who I am. Cool. Let's run with it. As opposed to like, wait, and what else am I? And what else am I? What do they think I am? And who do they think I am? And am I enough yet? So, so like who's asking the question, and then even that can be multi-layered. And then of course, if we're going to our nefesh elokis, the answer is so simple. Who are you?
He's God.
God. What?
What they said.
What they said?
Enough.
Enough. Divine light, right? Something like that, which is such a lofty, esoteric concept. But again, who's asking the question? Your nefesh habahamis needs a lot of details and wants you to show me where. Be clear. I need specifics. And your nefesh elokis is like, oh yeah, cool. Right.
Consistently easy answer.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's so simple, and it's also kind of going back to the way that you were describing your excitement and your joy. It's like it's not just about you. It connects you to something that is literally the oneness of the entire universe. So somehow, and of course we're humans. We're gonna have an exploration of what that means. But who is asking? Who is doing the connecting? Who is asking the question? Well, it depends. Is it my human, or is it my human soul or my godly soul? And then even with that, right? Okay, so you are light, you are divine. I'm gonna go with the word light for now, right? So even within light, okay, I feel like then like what some version of the ego is like, okay, but am I a light bulb? Am I a bonfire? Am I a torch? Am I what kind of light? What do we mean? Am I a candle? Am I the sun? What is it? And I do think that we have different ways of being light in this world and expressing light, and that has to do with literally from who you are the moment you're born, kind of like as the soul made its way down here, we got our little personalities along with it as like ding 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 boom, here you are. And so there's definitely unique flavors of each of our light, and a lot of them may be really resonant and similar to other people in some way, and I think that we will always have some sort of unique flavor in some unique combination. But it's always light. And again, I think that there's a lifelong process of discovery and learning what it is and what it is in each moment, which again comes into that word of the wholeness. It's like we are light, and we're our ego, and we're our mature ego and our immature ego, and our light and our shadow light, and it's kind of everything. But even if we can ask ourselves who's asking the question, who is the one that's doing the connecting right now? Is there and again, coming from a lens of wholeness, that it's like, is it a part of me that's lonely? That's okay, but now I know who it is and what it is, and now I know a little bit better how to give it to myself, or what I actually need in this moment, and can maybe a little more do that for myself. Or is it coming from somewhere that's so much bigger than me, or maybe I'm like in this moment I'm to be something for someone else. Yeah. So connecting in the context of this conversation, connection is something that it's also something that we need to engage with and feed and fuel and attend to, just like anything else. Because of course we can connect to whatever part of it, and whichever part of us is doing the connecting, we can connect, like we can deepen our connection, we can build our connection, we can compound the connection, but we can also get disconnected. But good news is, like Tishrei, a couple months ago, we could always reconnect. And then deepen that connection. So it's also, as a human being, it's like there's constant ebb and flow and movement that's happening, and again, a lifelong process of sorts in its own way. Okay, how does that feel?
Well, I loved it. Sorry, I keep on talking.
No, thank you. I know I'm sitting up here at the head by myself, but it's a group conversation.
It's so real what you're saying. Like, you sometimes, like, even when you're connecting to, let's say you were saying like hobbies or something, within that you could like lose yourself, and then like, okay, let me zoom out a bit, so you kind of walk away from it, and then you lose yourself. You're like, no, wait, I need to do the things I love, but not like get too into it that you completely lose that connection. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, both ways, like walking away from things that you connect to and connecting at the same time, you can both times get like lost in it or too far away from it, and you have to just continuously balance it out until you get that ebb and flow constantly.
Yeah.
Cool.
And spoiler alert, I actually think what life is that.
Yeah.
I think that so much of life is learning our unique balance, because some people may have a natural inclination to very spiritual things, some people to very physical, tangible things, and then finding their equilibrium will be somewhere in their own middle. But for a lot of us, but not for a lot of us, for all of us in our own ways and in general, I feel like life as a human being, because if we were meant to all be one, if we were meant to be only spiritual, we wouldn't be humans. And if we were meant to be only human, I don't think we would have any quest or interest in anything more, anything godly. I don't know that we would have a concept. We would probably be a rock or something like that. We wouldn't actually be human. We would be something more inanimate, but something more purely physical. But it's a constant flow of that dance in and out, and connecting to each thing, of connecting to something deeper or more, and then connecting to something more physical and real, and back and forth. But then also how that ebbs and flows through different stages of life, because it's constantly changing. So yeah, yay. Which, back to the wholeness, is like, you can't be doing it wrong if this is a part of what the whole container is meant to be.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Kind of similar to what I said before, that like we're talking a lot of abstractions. I like abstract. I live in abstract a lot, but I also feel like I would love to unpack it more of like, okay, so what is that? What are we talking about? Or
Sure.
What does that mean? Or like.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I think that we'll get a little bit more into it as we get to the third section. But even for right now, in the context of connection, let's say, I feel like very often the arts is a way, artistic expression in some manner is a way that is a very, seems to be a much clearer human path to creating, to connecting to something greater.
Yeah.
So the kind of this ebb and flow of like, okay, so now I'm going to go and draw for an hour, and I'm going to lose track of time and get into this flow and maybe channel in some way, or I don't know. And then also I have to come back to the real world, and maybe if you're an artist, I need to sell my art. I need to contact the practical. There's something more tachlis, that it's like I have to get things done, but I can't only be here because then I'm not creating, and I can't only be here because then I'm not necessarily distributing my art, if distribution of your art is your thing. So, like, there is an ebb and flow in finding the time and space to do that, and finding the time and space to do that. And then finding, if possible, either to have someone to help you to create your balance, or find some sort of balance. But again, because connection can be to anything, it can be about our health. Sometimes we can neglect our health so much because we're just doing what we have to do that we forget to tap into literally even just breathe, and let that connection to our breath regulate our system in some way. Forget even nourishment, exercise, sleep, whatever are the other super basic human physical things, or body and emotions, the same, mind and emotions, the same thing for all of it. It's we can overdo our mental health, and we can underdo our mental health, or mental hygiene, paying attention to it. We can deep dive into it and really get lost there. And then sometimes maybe in a way that it disconnects us from other people, or that we can't give and contribute in some way, which may be a huge part of us. And sometimes it's necessary, by the way. It's not all bad, but again, it's that pendulum of like, we may swing here to come back here to find some sort of centering, or to find some sort of balance where we can recognize the signs when it's time to go in, time to come out, time to dive here, time to dive there. But then also, let's say, even with people, right? Connecting to other people, connecting to God. Well, I'll stay away from connecting to God for a second, but connecting to other people, we can totally we could obviously be disconnected from somebody. That's like a friend that we don't talk to for years, or a parent, a family member that we are completely out of contact with, or that, for better or for worse. Or we can have codependent relationships where we were like all in, overly connected all the time, and just like diving into each other's worlds, and we totally lose ourselves. So one can have a very strong sense of self, one can have a convoluted one, and then right somewhere in the middle is healthy connection, boundaries, maintaining self. Yeah?
Sounds like we're talking like about connection in regards to balance. Kind of.
It ended up coming out that way. But because, again, in the context of this conversation, that's why it was, okay, so this is where I'm feeling really good about connection, but I'm feeling kind of out of connection here. So maybe with God, maybe with my body, maybe with community, things like that. So if there's some disconnection in some way, it's like, okay, how can I bring more of that in? But then in a way that works for you or also is in the context of your wholeness, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just like what you were saying, in very practical terms, I kind of feel like when you're committed to the connection, there is no balance. Something is going to fall to the sideline. So like, if let's say you were saying, let's say drawing for an hour, but I feel like a real artist is going to be drawing for 7 hours straight, and then like going to bed in the wee hours of the morning, not eating normal, not things. So you're a bunch of stuff are falling on the wayside, but you're like, this makes me happy. I'm so connected to this art or whatever. Like, I feel like truly connecting to something creates that other things just fall away. Does that make sense?
If you're being so if you're being connected in a way that you're so present, or you get into a state of flow or something like that, yeah, the world and time and the world will disappear. But it doesn't,
Yes
I don't think
no.
that, I don't think that has to be only that, right? Sometimes a lot of self-care is shutting everything and everything else off.
Yes.
In order to connect with self. Or when you're spending time with a husband, a family member, a friend, very often, like, why do we love Shabbos? Everybody at a table, everybody's phones are away. We're all actually connecting with each other in real time. At least I do, right? Even if people use their phones, they're generally not going to bring it to a Shabbos table, and it creates such a beautiful, real, present connection that we don't always get on a regular day, which we have both. We have our time to be working and on our phones and connecting through our phones, and then we have our time to be sitting present, looking at one person in the eyes, and just having a conversation like that. But it's all, I mean, listen, connection, I don't think we can be human and be out of connection. Like, even our clothes are touching our body. I don't know.
Right,
There's always some sort of connection that's happening. Right.
Something, someone,
Yeah, and then it's which level. Again, somebody can be totally in tune with their spiritual health and not completely disconnected from their physical health. If we're in a physical human body, I believe that there's some way that it holds it all, but it kind of ended up, it wasn't intentionally for it to go there,
No,
but it
it's
kind
not
of did
bad.
as it built
That's
upon
kind of
itself.
me just like collecting.
Yeah, you're summarizing for everyone.
For myself, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
In line with that, real quick, like, what would be a few synonyms that you would give to connection?
To connection, I think, is like being in touch with, being joint in some way. It's funny, I did look up the definition of connection, and it was so not interesting that I didn't write it down. I didn't copy it over. It's right, exactly what you think it is.
Necessarily, but like, what do you like?
Connection, I think, is attunement, consciousness, like bringing your awareness to it. And again, it could be literal connection, like just bringing awareness to your senses, or it could be feeling someone who's not in the room, or connecting with different parts of yourself, understanding yourself, awareness, consciousness. It's also like we can connecting to God, connecting via the path of different types of relationships. It's all shoots for connection in some way. Yeah, does that? Okay, cool. Okay, how does that feel? How are we feeling with connection? Are you all with me?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's opening a lot of interesting like pathways.
Yeah. Also, again, I don't know why I'm sharing. I was just having this conversation with someone, and they're like, for me, like the kinnos, I feel that like that connects me. Like I feel like Lubavitcher, I'm a Chabad, and I know like a sister for her, it's like Tishrei with the whole like 770 jam pack. Like those weeks, those moments connect her. Like she feels connected to Lubavitch and Hashem and Rebbe and all that. And it's like certain times of the year that different people feel it differently. And it's also just really interesting how that works.
Yeah. Well, so actually, thank you for sharing that. It's a great segue. Because now we started with joy, and then we moved to connection, and now we're moving on to the third and final word of the night is purpose. So, again, I feel like we can spend a month talking about purpose or more, or a lifetime actually, but we're gonna for the streamlining of this conversation and for oversimplification, we're going to obviously talk about it within a specific lens. But for my own curiosity, raise your hand if purpose is a word that like holds real meaning to you on a daily basis. Cool. A few people, half the room. Purpose. That is something that you walk with. Okay. Okay, most of the room. Great. Raise your hand if you always knew what you wanted to be when you grew up.
Nope.
Still don't know?
I wanted to be, but I'm not that.
Okay. Oh, okay. You jumped. Okay, so we had like two hands, kind of. Okay, so my next question was, are you currently doing that thing? No. Yes, kind of. Sorry.
Driving.
Okay, trying to get there.
Me, I am, but I don't want to do it for a long time.
Okay. You don't want to do it for the long run, but you're doing it right now. Okay, cool.
I feel like I recently graduated.
You recently graduated,
Doing what I wanted to do.
but you always wanted to do. And? Oh, like you moved on from it.
Moved on.
Okay.
It's like,
We were like, oh, you're in school and you're finding a job.
We're still in abstractions here.
Yeah. Okay.
phase 2.
Okay. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you never knew what you wanted to do and it changed 100 times in your lifetime.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but then once I figured it out, then and when I do that, then I feel every day like I think of purpose all the time.
Okay.
But maybe like right now I'm like a little flailing and stuff.
Okay. It is late.
No, I'm saying right now, like I'm saying in my life.
In your life? Okay.
Some detours, but
Okay, that's okay. Raise your hand if you never knew. Who said that they're still figuring it out? Never knew?
I'm still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out? Still figuring it out? Still figuring it out? Like you kind of know, but also still figuring it out? Okay. Okay. So I guess, obviously I was just asking purpose more in the context of what you do and what you wanted to be when you grow up, but I actually want to go a little bit deeper into that. So raise your hand if you believe that purpose is something that is intrinsic, internal to who you are. It's something that has to do with the insides of you.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Is purpose something that is intrinsic? Something about your internal something?
Yeah.
From within your thing?
Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes
A few
and
people?
no.
Yes and no? Okay, well, the next question. Is it extrinsic? Is it something that comes from outside of you?
It could.
It could, but not necessarily. No hands for that one.
Oh, both. No, for sure.
Both? I think it's both.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Or
Is purpose, sorry,
So you're asking if it's
I'm asking
the
in your,
external inspires purpose or the internal?
where does it come from? Does it come from the inside or does it come from the outside? And I think it could be a subjective answer. I'm asking in your experience. Like for those of you who have had a sense of purpose or something that you've connected to, did it come from something within you or did it come from something without you? Outside of you? External? Both? Okay. Do you think that purpose is something that needs to be connected to your work?
I think it is.
Maybe.
whether-
One finger. Not a hand, but a finger.
For me, it's with everything that I do.
With everything you do?
Yeah. What was your question?
Does purpose have to do with your work?
Yeah.
I try to have purpose in everything. Yeah.
You try to put purpose in everything?
I
Okay.
think that it's whether or not you like it is part of your purpose.
Whether or not you like your work will be whether or not it's part of
Yeah,
your
or
purpose?
whether, meaning it's not, I think it's like purpose, part of one of the meanings of purpose is that whatever you're doing is what you're meant to be doing.
Right.
So it is connected.
Or your job
Whether or
can
not
lead
it's
you to your
conscious.
purpose.
Your job can lead you to your purpose, right? I'm curious more in terms of your definitions that it's like, yes, it has to be your work. But it sounds like not necessarily. It might be, but not necessarily. Huh?
When I told you, like, it sounded like serious. I was putting that. Like when you said that with everything I do.
Oh, I was just repeating it. It's all good. No, it sounds like a beautiful thing.
I just try, yeah. Because like pushing things and you're like, I just like worse.
Wait, Chanchy, for the
Okay,
sake of
yes.
answering the question, what are you describing as purpose?
That's a part of what I'm trying. It's actually, I want to uncover the definition together, right? So is it what you do? Is it something that's inside of you? Is it something that's outside of you? Does it have to do with what you do for your work? Does it have to do with your accomplishments? Maybe. Does it have to do with your relationships? Is purpose related to relationships?
It's related.
I think all of them.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
It's all related.
Related to your relationships, is it like, or does purpose come from, or is it meant to be relationships? Which also relationships is a huge thing because that could do with having a partner or a spouse. That could be family. That could be friendships.
Exactly.
And I feel like that can vary from person to person. But I'm curious about you guys. Maybe yes. I'm seeing some nodding.
Sorry.
I think it has a lot to do with awareness, whether or not we're aware of purpose. Like,
Yeah.
when you talk to someone who grew up Chabad, it's like so automatic that everything is purposeful.
Yeah.
But it's like not everybody thinks like that, and
Right.
not everybody who thinks like that acts like that in everything that they do. And sometimes it's lip service,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's like noticing that the chips too are part of the plan, and like how are they part of the plan?
They're
I'm
part of
not
the
really
Farbrengan.
sure. It's
Right.
like
Not any chips, those specific chips from those potatoes.
They've been waiting from the time they were
for the
planted.
time.
Yeah, that every
Every
single thing. Okay, so well, actually, my next question was going to be raise your hand if you grew up in a Chabad family. Is everyone here from a Chabad family? No, almost everybody. Okay, so that was actually going to be also a part of my question because I'm curious for you then also. What were you raised with is the purpose of life? Because this is actually an interesting conversation I've had with Jewish people from different sects. And the answer, we would think the answer is the same because it's so obvious if you grew up in a Chabad house, but it's not necessarily. Yeah.
Is that what? I don't know. I'm asking. Like, your parents, like when you were young, that's like, was that the mission?
I'm saying
Not the mission, but like when it
yeah.
came to like
Every-
purpose, direction in life.
like making up, like making a
Bringing
home.
Mashiach.
Yeah.
Tibbetz
Uniting
Achtonim,
the physical, every
bringing
single-
Mashiach, is that what you said? Yeah, bringing
I had a
Mashiach.
fourth grade teacher. She would end off the
Uncovering
lesson
the
of every
sparks,
single
like a
table from the
shlachas,
Rebbe.
like-
You take the Gashmias and you take the Ruchnias and you make a Dir B'Tachtonim.
Right.
Yeah. What? You didn't have that experience.
No, yeah, no, guys, don't worry. No, no one's touching. I think, in a way, like now that I'm thinking about it in my life, but I'm thinking more like my parents, helping me like make decisions, see where I'm going in my life. And I do think it always was, yeah. Like that always did inspire it. Like, where could I go that I can like help the group project?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like so much smaller and like, and like it wasn't like, so should I do this or this? Okay, Der B'Tachtonim.
Right.
Not even that, like everything was in Shkoka practice.
Everything.
Yeah, everything intentional. Everything has a reason.
So this is
And a
way,
purpose.
Obviously, don't be mad about it. There's gonna be a reason for it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
I
hard.
very much was.
Yeah, Dir B'Tachtonim, elevating the sparks, shlichus, right? Bringing Mashiach. What about for you? Do you have a sense? Sorry to point to you. You've been very nice and quiet the whole time, but like, what were you raised with? Even in the context of, let's say, even just Judaism. Forget, like, what is the point of being a Jew? Can you, like, do you know what the focus was?
Within my family or within the school system?
Both.
I was actually gonna ask you, like, if there was intentionality in the way you asked it. Like, was it this? What message were you given, or like, kind of, what do you come out with now from the whole challenge of everything you?
Well, it's
were
kind of
raised
both. It's kind of a
Yeah.
part of let's define this word, right?
Right.
and our associations and
Right.
unspoken understandings of it.
I mean, within the school system, I was in like Beis Yaakov school systems,
Yeah.
and it was very much like serve Hashem and you have to do the right thing. Versus within my family, it was more about having the meaning and the connection with God and Amunah and things like that.
Okay.
It's kind of different.
So one is like service of Hashem, and one is having a real connection
Yeah,
and meaningful
yeah.
relationship with Hashem. Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I've spoken to people that it's like, be a good Jew, keep your head down, don't be noticed, like do the right thing, kind of as you said, similar to Beis Yaakov, I guess. And it's like, whoa, in Chabad, it's like, bring Mashiach, bring the light all over the world. Yeah. Huh? Kinos, perfect timing. Oh, chaos.
Well,
Yeah.
there's some overlap there. Very much like chaos, there's a connection.
Well, okay, so overall, obviously we could look at the word purpose in very small contexts, like what is the purpose of this conversation that we're having right now? Or we could look at purpose. I feel like purpose tends, if you just say the word purpose, or it usually, in the context of life, it's like this big, massive, overwhelming thing that, well, it's like individual, and then familial, and then communal, and then global, and it's just huge and overwhelming. And also, I think just a part of the human condition. It's like, why are we here? What is the point? That which can be an existential crisis to anyone from anywhere. And just to share a little bit from my personal experience, for me, it's always been a huge part of difficulty, like of my life, and something that was very difficult to figure out for a very long time. Or at least what felt like a very long time. Like my parents were shluchim. I grew up on shluchos. I never wanted to do that, but it's something that's really drilled into you as like the point and the most amazing thing of everything. And I worked in preschool, and I did that for a little while until that was not the right thing for me. And then until I moved to all sorts of different random jobs, trying all the different things. And I just couldn't figure it out. It was really, really frustrating because I feel like for some people, it's really difficult to find some sense of purpose or what they want to do or feel like they belong in the world or have a reason for being here in some way. But sometimes, obviously, we have all of the extremes that a lot of people, it's like, I just don't know what I like, of I don't like anything. And I was the opposite. And obviously there's everything in between, but I was the opposite of, I like so many things, I have no idea what to do. Like, I have no idea what to do, I have no idea where to go, and I like so many things, and why can't I figure this out? Very, very frustrating experience. And I would say that I think I've figured it out to an extent, but it's also something constantly figuring out, whoever said things like that. So I did go back to the dictionary to look up the word purpose. We've been doing a lot of Merriam-Webster tonight, Merriam-Webster. So purpose has a couple of definitions, which is A, something set up as an object or an end to be attained, like an intention. So it sounds a little bit lighter. A resolution or determination. And the second one, a subject under discussion or an action in course of execution. Like, what is the purpose of this meeting? So it's actually kind of light. It's not nearly as deep.
What's the purpose of?
This is the definition of purpose.
Yeah, but sorry, you just gave a lot.
Oh, it's like a subject under discussion, an action in course of execution, an intention, something to be, something to attain, purpose, right?
Yeah,
Sounds like small, much smaller, much simpler, much less loaded for sure.
The objective of this lesson.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, so where did we get this big, heavy, huge meaning from? So I looked up the word fulfilled. Fulfilled definition is feeling happiness and satisfaction. Feeling that one's abilities and talents are being fully used.
Interesting.
Providing happiness and satisfaction, like for example, living a more fulfilled life. Does any of this sound familiar?
Not at all.
Not at all. Does this sound like kind of where we started? A little bit, but maybe not really fully. So I thought that was so interesting. Also, how purpose became this huge word, and dictionarially, which I guess it has to do with the evolution of the word, not that big, but fulfillment, to be fulfilled, and maybe that's also where we've gotten some of our wires crossed, I'm guessing, about like the purpose of life is like joy and happiness, because fulfillment's feeling happiness and satisfaction. Maybe, I don't know, I'm guessing. But anybody here, anyway, but since we're discussing on the topic of purpose, or now let's swap it for the word of fulfillment. We're going to leave with a whole different definition. We're going to send Miriam Engels, and we're going to be like, okay, so we rewrote the thing. It's actually wholeness and connection and fulfillment. We're not using the other words anymore. But either way, I think that it still does come back to, right, feeling happiness and satisfaction, kind of like that there's something that I'm doing that matters to me or that fulfills me in some way. Actually, like this, feeling that one's abilities and talents are being fully used. So I think that then is much more the definition of like, why am I here and what am I doing here and how do I feel about being here? So anybody here heard of the guy Simon Sinek? Who's amazing. Okay, if you've never heard of him, please go look him up. His work is incredible. He has tons of talks and actually a book called Start With Why. Right? And why being the thing that is like, what drives me? Why am I here? Or why am I here doing this thing? And not a lot of people actually in my experience in the mental emotional health world like the question why. It's actually really interesting. It's like I've heard it's a very dysregulating question. It very often doesn't offer the answer that you want. It's not very spiritually aligned, I've heard. But it's really interesting because he has a whole body of work built on start with why. So why am I doing this? Why does this matter? Why am I here? And I think in a way that he's trying to offer something very practical and very tangible to work with. So not one of those open-ended questions of like a 2-year-old kid that's like, but why? Because of this, why? Because of this, why? And it's just an endless loop that never ends. And one of the exercises that he offers that I would say look up how he describes it because it'll for sure be better than how I'm going to explain it. But is to one of the ways of discovering what your why is talk to your friends or if you're in a service thing, the people that you serve, and ask them, for example, why are we friends? And he said that the way that he explains it is in the beginning they'll probably say some things about you, and then at some point, and it's like no, but why are we friends? Why are you friends with me? That then they'll probably start talking about themselves and what you offer them. I'm getting chills again. And at some point, and I think that it will help you notice and understand what it is that you give, offer, who you are in some way, and probably innately, right? That has something to do with your unique, right? Your unique light and what it's here, how it's here to express, what it's here to do in some way. I actually started a folder on my computer a little while ago for the once in a while that I'll get a message from an unexpected place of somebody letting me know that something that I did like in a performance that it meant something to them. And it's always like, okay, this is my why. This is why I do what I do. And sometimes it can be from a client and sometimes it can be from the most unexpected places. But this is also, right? Sometimes we're so in the work that we don't zoom out to, is it working? Am I being effective? And it's to me also, even when you may have already found your why, reconnecting with it again and again in a way that it can continue to drive like your wholeness and fulfillment in this lifetime even more. So first of all, I would encourage you to maybe do that exercise on your own time of like, why are you friends with me? Just because it's so brilliant. And then another thing is that I feel like very often in life, at least in my experience, where we're like the purpose and what we're doing here has a lot to looking for something, as opposed to, and let me know if your experience was different, as opposed to maybe listening for it. And I feel like there's a very different energy to that. Looking while you can just be seeing something, it could be very calm. It tends to be frantic and like there's never enough and there's always something else I have to be looking for and scanning for and searching for and trying to find and trying to notice and trying to see and trying to understand, as opposed to listening feels much more receptive. I guess a little bit more feminine energy and more of like, I'm here and my ears are open, and if and when the things find me, because I'm listening, I'll hear it. So, which brings me again to the idea of purpose fulfillment. If you found something in your life, even if you've decided not to do it anymore, or that you don't want to do it long term, or you have found it and you've outgrown it in some way, or maybe you've never found it. This question of, okay, well, that thing, and maybe it's one thing, maybe it's many things, is it something that you are holding, or is it something that's holding you? Is it something that you are stewarding, or is it something that's kind of stewarding you? Is it something that you're choosing, or is it something that's choosing you? And they sound really similar, but I think they feel completely different. That sometimes, right, for example, the vision of Mashiach and Dir B'Tachtonim, it's huge. How can one person hold that? But what if I'm a part of this thing and I'm being held by the concept of, for example, Mashiach, Dir B'Tachtonim, or maybe something of just like overall wellness, self-expression, kindness, right? Maybe it's a concept like that, but there's a way that I am it, I steward it, I offer it, I give it, I hold it, and then also it's so big that it holds me, that it carries me, that I am one of the vehicles that it offers to people. Because it usually is so much bigger than us. And I'm wrapping up to the last couple of points.
Can I have a little grievance?
Yes.
I just feel like when we were given that, and like I'm gonna bring it to the source, I'm not gonna blame the people. The way the Rebbe like shared that message was not in that way at all. It was intense. It was like we were. I don't feel like a proper vessel for that energy at all. It was like too much, and it's like I don't understand the disconnect because like the Rebbe is perfect and whatever, but like we needed that translation of what you're giving right now. I just don't understand why there's such a big disconnect from the source to us being the container and the soldiers.
Yeah.
I just want to share that.
Yeah,
Thanks
sure.
everyone for listening.
No, I actually really appreciate you saying that, and I'm going to repeat it for the recording. The grievance of feeling a disconnect from the source, of how we were not taught it with that kind of tone, and it came with such an intensity and massiveness. And I do think a couple of things is, number one, I agree with you. The Rebbe was really intense with certain things. Like all of those stories where somebody wrote to the Rebbe of like, I'm overwhelmed, which project should I drop? And the Rebbe said, add one more. Or of, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do this. And the Rebbe was like, oh, you should meet so-and-so. And it was the person who wrote the letter. No. I'm so sorry. That's not for me and my makeup at all. And it's so overwhelming. It's debilitating. I can do nothing in that energy personally. And I do think we're all built differently. And I'm sure we're all more capable than we can fathom, right? But so number one, I do think there's parts of it that were very intense. You're right. And I also am going to guess that the Rebbe taught it in that way because that's what was needed at the time. There was no such thing as shluchos before the Rebbe. It needed to be a big, powerful, massive thing to go out and do. And the Rebbe was revolutionary in any Hasidic philosophy. And it's amazing. And we are living a couple of generations later. So number one, would the Rebbe have that same attitude today? I have no idea. Would the Rebbe speak to us the same way? I don't know. It's more than 30 years ago.
I think not, because I think he speaks for, let's say, people like you or whoever is like sharing or whatever. So maybe this is his way of resharing it.
Halavai. Halavai amen.
We're here and we're getting it in ways that they didn't get it 30 years ago, and like there's a reason that we're here without him physically getting it this way, and like there's no way we'd have access to this if it didn't come down that way 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's true. And it's an evolution. Like we needed that to then be able to build the next thing.
And I think
Thank you. That's a great point.
The hardest work, and like I think us needing to do it on our own is like the whole point of like the Rebbe's not bringing Mashiach for us anymore. He gave us what we need, and now we're doing the hardest part with what he gave us, and like actually doing it ourselves by like gathering here and like translating it and looking up the words in the dictionary and like saying our grievances and like I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. And I think I actually didn't think of that, but exactly with what you're saying, that him not being here gives room for interpretation a little bit more. And then also each in our individuality. It's the world is not the same world it was. Also, come on, cell phones, they didn't exist 15 years ago in the way that they do now. The world has changed in the last decade beyond, which also even the definition of Mashiach, which I am not an authority to speak on this, but whoa, we need to relearn that because the world is a different world than when I grew up learning what does it mean that everybody is in an instant going to know that Mashiach is here. It's not magic, it's cell phones maybe. We all have our phones in our hands at all time. We're going to know in a second because it's right here all the time.
It's going to get like a WhatsApp video.
Exactly. I'm like, Mashiach is here, right? I remember once hearing the idea of like on the wings of eagles, and like now we have airplanes. Is that what it is? I don't know. I'm not an authority on this. I haven't relearned it, but I have a lot of questions. So you're right. There is, and I really, really resonate with that grievance. And that's a part of, I think, the difficulty and the wholeness. Very good. I think that's a part of the difficulty, and also, I guess, the freedom that we have, like you're saying, being in this generation where, yes, there's something to learn from that. And if it doesn't work for you, put it down. Put it down. Judaism has so many aspects and elements to it, and the Rebbe wrote different teachings to different people. We just don't have that in real time in the same way that somebody can say, look at the letters right here. Because I honestly also don't fully believe, maybe the Rebbe told someone something and it was meant for everyone, and also most of the time, I don't know about that. That wasn't for everybody. That was for one specific individual.
I don't tell me that personally, like me as a person. I don't see that the Rebbe ever telling me that. Because if the Rebbe like understood me, wait,
I'm gonna time you out right there. You don't think the Rebbe would ever say that to you? Then the Rebbe would say it to you. The Rebbe would be like, "Girl, snap my fingers. You don't see your potential. Forget about it." Sorry, I interrupted her though.
No, you're totally fine. I think think we choose as a culture to what to focus on, and maybe we just need to be shifting our focus a little bit onto other things the Rebbe has shared that can help us do our mission better.
Yeah, and it's also even, like, for example, I was actually just having this conversation with my aunt a couple of days ago, that she said the Rebbe gave a shlichus and sent everybody out all over the world in a way that 40, however many years ago, that maybe not everybody had the same relationship with Chabad the way that people will appreciate it now, because anywhere they go, they know that there's someone to turn to. But then we were talking about how, what does that mean about our own? The Rebbe sent us out everywhere, literally gave us a global concept that was inaccessible and did not exist before, and now it feels like we're lacking in our home front, in our own homes and in our own everything. And yes, of course, the Rebbe taught many things, but it wasn't the focus, and it feels like that's the next iteration of Chabad, is like, okay, cool, we take care of everybody, but how do we take care of our own now? We forgot how to do that. We don't have the pioneering thought, the same way of doing that. And so it does feel like, and then take that on a personal, individual level, that's like, how do I come home to me? What is wholeness and Judaism, right? What does all of this mean to me in the context of it all? How do I connect with this in a way that still feels godly, if possible? And redefining purpose and fulfillment in a personal, individual way, and then also in a way that contributes to something bigger than us. Again, even redefining Mashiach. Very complicated topic for me, but yes.
Can I add like a nuanced thought?
Please.
Just an idea that, like, I think it's a very, let me see if I could give over what's going on in my, like, the thought that I have here. But basically, I think that when you're dealing with like an opposite, like when you're dealing with something that doesn't agree with you, you have a choice to say that's the problem, or not on the problem in a sense that, like, you're debilitated, but in a way, like, if it's very easy to deflect and to be like, that's not what he meant, or he would say something different, or things like that. But I think there's like a fine, like, sensitive line of being able to be like, he probably, like, yes, he meant, yeah, like, yes, and like, he meant whatever he meant, and like, it's all true in and of itself. Because I did say before, like, he's my best friend. So it's like...
And that's amazing. And like, and you probably have the deepest understanding of anybody here.
No, but in a really, like, soft, gentle way. I'm not saying, like, the opposite of it. I'm just, like, it's kind of, like, 1 inch to the left of that idea. Yeah. It's basically looking at it in the sense that, like, it is what it is and is true and everything in and of itself. Like, maybe he would say the exact same things. But, and, like, yes, and in addition to that, if he would be looking at you, you know what he would tell you. If you're the type that doesn't work for, he wouldn't tell that to you, and it doesn't mean that's not true. As right. Like, it is true. Sometimes people do need to, like, they need someone who, like, looks at them and loves them and is there for them to be like, you got this. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't feel heavy if you see and feel that love and connection, like someone that, like, is literally doing it with you and you feel the support and whatever. But if it's coming across in a way that it's like, no, this is too much, then that wouldn't be said to you. Yeah. It's not like an objective, but it doesn't mean that in and of itself is too much or too whatever. It right. It's just that, like, you're looking. It's easier to it's easier to just to deflect it because it's uncomfortable for me, and that's like a very, like, it's an easy place that our society goes to in every area of life, not just spirituality. And I feel like there's like a space to say that, like, there's a gentler way to look at it. If
right.
That makes sense.
You're so right. You're so right, and thank you for bringing that in.
Also, talks to what you're saying.
I want to push back a little bit from what you're saying, just because, like, I do feel like the Rebbe speaks through the people that are around us, and when your educators and teachers are, like, saying these things all the time, and, like, I felt it, I held it, and I'm like, these concepts are so internalized in my being, but, like,
no, I agree with you. I separate
the do more. It's like, I don't know who that's good for. I don't understand.
It's also their objective.
Showing, like, that.
It's
exactly. That's not the right one.
And also.
Coming out of that.
Yeah.
I actually really agree with you.
I didn't hear. What did you say?
Emphasize, like, our teachers, because they are coming from their own narrative, their own perspective, their own interpretation. It's not the Rebbe
Also, a lot of people that literally are the people
around you.
No.
I don't agree with that.
I agree, but it's like if he's talking to everyone.
I feel like also a lot of people like to get the fact that in 1991 and 1992, the Rebbe completely shifted the way he spoke completely shifted the narrative of what the mission is. He said, guys, everything I told you before, great, but like, that's not what we're doing anymore. The sparks are elevated, and 1990, it's like, if you learn those sikhs, like the last 2 years of what the Rebbe is saying, you're like, who is this guy? He's telling me to take deep breaths and like be inside my body, and like I feel like no one talks about that enough. That like they're those sikhs, and then there's these, and they're the last 2 years of what the Rebbe left us with, and like I don't know. I literally I can't learn regular sikhs anymore after I go into those, and they're a little controversial, you know, because they're where the Mishichis get their ammo, but like it's real stuff. It's real stuff.
Yes.
And I don't know. We don't talk about it enough. That like the message we want the Rebbe to give us, he gave us. The message we're looking for is there.
I don't know. I think the biggest like takeaway for me is not to confuse Jews with Judaism. They really are like there's some screwed up. There's some like really terrible educators out there that are just working.
Good educators, but this was like their experience of like the Rebbe and like how.
And that's exactly it. It was their experience. Period. They have to be
that's what they were told, and they were getting over what they were, what they saw.
Right.
If it doesn't resonate.
What's your name?
Okay, someone's done my hair. Hannah.
Oh, no, I actually.
The girl that mentioned about the same.
What's yours?
I'm Maki.
You mentioned something about like taking the rest.
I actually love what you said. You just talked about
Yeah,
when I was 14, my father knew nothing, and then I turned 21, and I was like, wow, you learned a lot in 7 years. And it's like, sometimes, just like the ebb and flow of your life, you're really not in a place to receive the knowledge, like the absolute truth. And then whether it's time, whether it's space, whether it's whatever, the same information comes back around, and it just clicks, and it internalizes, and you're ready to receive it. And I really think it's like a time and a space that you're in life.
Right, meaning it's not a testament to what that thing is, it's a testament to where I'm at.
To where you're holding.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, can I pull everybody back together? Just so we could finish up and then totally keep the conversation going. And everybody's points is amazing. And I don't even know what sichos you're talking about, which is, I think, case in point for you, by the way. And I really, really agree with what you said. And this is actually something that I think is a huge issue in general anywhere in the world, is that there are things that are told, taught, and communicated as absolute truths, and they're not always. There is context that is important. And you were saying take it as truth and then maybe move it to 1 degree to the left, sure, or find another truth that also exists at the same time, because I am sure the Rebbe also sent letters to people to slow down and to take care of themselves, but those are not the ones that are chosen to be shared with us, which is a part of what's so hard.
So a cleaning lady gets shared.
Have a cleaning lady. I'm like, Shalom Bayis, what if you wash the dishes and fold instead of folding your talis right now, right? Those are the ones that are shared. But which is again, and then sometimes we hear a message that's hard for us to hear, and sometimes we hear exactly what we needed to hear, which is a part of the difficulty of we're doing our best to figure it out as we go without a physical person like that right now. So it's and that's all of it. It's true. It's all true. And then we have to find, but again, is it true for me? Is it true for everyone? That's the tricky part. But I think they both hold truth. Yeah. No, I think they both hold truth. But I also do think that a lot of us, and this also, I think also depends on where we are on our journey, some of us do need the push to do. Like sometimes we need to know, learn, and experience, and sometimes we have to go out there, roll your hands up, and get your hands dirty, or like actually bring the things into tachlis, because that's why we're here. But it's not everything everywhere all at once, because again, we're human, one thing at a time. Or 2 things at a time. And also, or 3 or 4 or 5 or however many. But I also think that we're different. I think I thrive doing 1 or 2 things at a time. More than that, everything starts to falter. There are other people who 10 minimum. My brain cannot wrap itself around that. For other people, it's like one thing so boring. How? So I also think we're built differently. And that's a huge part of all of this, is like figure it out in your unique light and expression of that, your unique energy level in this whole lifetime or in this season of your life. So like I don't remember if anybody was here. Were you here last time? Maybe?
At Townhouse.
Oh, also Townhouse. Okay. Last time I was talking about how I'm coming out of this period of hibernation, which literally about a year. I can't even tell you the amount of time that I spent at home of not even necessarily socializing, not even, I don't know. My system was craving being at home, felt lonely. I could count on one hand. It was just what I needed. And every time I tried to push, I would hit a wall. Not what I needed right then. Since my birthday is in the summer, since Tishrei, whole new energy came in. It's like, all right, let's do this. We're doing workshops. I'm rebuilding a thing, a few different things, running a different project. I could not have done this during last year. My system was not available for it. And it was really hard, again, like do. It was to constantly come back to listening as best as I can, taking care of myself as best as I can. I honestly think it gave me time to clear a lot of stuff out of the way and create some foundational habits that now I can build something really so much bigger on than I could have done before this period. But like real hibernation, I say it jokingly, but also quite literally. Like through the summer, through the winter, it didn't matter on the season, in my house on my couch. So it also depends on who you are as a person, and again, the season in your life. When you're single is one thing, when you're married is another thing, when you have babies is another thing, when you have teenagers is another thing. We have seasons and ebbs and flows, which is again the fun of life and being human is it's all constantly changing, and we find our balance, and then maybe life throws us off, or maybe we get to ride it for a while, but something in life will change, or we'll move and there's a whole new thing, and then, or who knows in terms of that. So to just bring the whole thing back together, I actually think this and please continue the conversation afterwards because it's such a good conversation. I'm just saying we have been losing people as the time has gotten later, but I saw something today, and I love how the little tidbits that just came in today for me to share and forward to you all is apparently every month in the Hebrew calendar is ruled by a Hebrew letter in the Aleph base. And I don't know what the source of that is, but I trust it. And Kislev is ruled by the letter Samach, which is support or uphold. So first of all, in the context of what we were just talking about, take that home. Second of all, is because we were talking about this in the context of purpose, is like, am I holding it? Is it holding me? Am I choosing it? Is it choosing me? Am I channeling it? Is it channeling me? I don't know. But either way, we are being so supported through all of it. Maybe we feel it very much. Maybe we don't. There seems to be this constant, again, ebb and flow, strong connection, maybe weaker connection between being very human and being very spiritual beings. And we're both always. But it's really cute also that any of us human beings think that we're able to know and see and understand everything, or that we should be able to know and see and understand everything as a human being, of like, what is my purpose and what is my, how am I going to feel fulfilled in this life? Can it be a lifelong journey and discovery? And it sounds like a lot of people here are very open to it being a lifelong journey and discovery, and just figuring it out as you go. And maybe if you did figure it out, it continuing to have its evolution and different iterations as life goes. And maybe you pivot massively at some point, maybe not. Maybe you've always known what you want it to be, maybe not. Maybe you know exactly what fulfills you and it's just bringing that into action. But either way, right, we're humans. It's hard sometimes. We don't always know. And we're going to do our best with what we've got, because like that's all that we could do. So letting this also be, right, like each of these things, our joy, happiness, gratitude, wholeness, being a constant discovery and expansion, our connection and depth of connection and reconnection and paying attention to what we're connecting to, it being a lifelong discovery and evolution and growth and expansion. And can we let purpose or fulfillment be the same thing, be something that continues to grow and evolve with us? And closing statements. So we really need to just reorder the thing on the flyer of maybe we start with understanding a little bit more of what helps me feel fulfilled. Like, what is my why? Like, what do the people around me let me know who I am? And then how do I connect to that and bring that more into my life and hold that by connecting to more parts of myself in a very wholeness kind of way that has room for joy and happiness, as well as all of the other things that are part of life. Right? So then when we know our why, we can align with it, we can connect to it consistently, we can act on it more consistently, because that's part of what we're here to do as human beings. We can be present to the life in front of us more consistently, and then we could live in more frequent joy, more daily wholeness, more holy humanness, bringing more light, being more light, even as we enter the deep winter feeling fully supported and upheld in each moment. Thanks for making it to the end. Good job, Ed. Whoa.